Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. A very warm good evening to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's webinar of science and technology. Thank you so much for joining in right on time. We will wait for a couple of minutes. Everyone should join in by then. Those whose classes are still going on, we'll wait for a couple of minutes, a few minutes, let others join in, and then we'll begin. Thank you so much for joining. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Yes, Vishal, this webinar is for both mains and the prelims exam. Thank you, Ankita. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. I hope your evening class is over. I hope none of you are stuck with the evening class. Good evening, good evening. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, Ashok. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Okay, so Sudhanshu is informing me geography class has ended. Good evening, good evening. All right then. So once again, a very warm welcome to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. I welcome you all to today's webinar as we had discussed earlier as well. The way in which the webinars have been conducting has changed slightly starting from this month. Earlier, we used to have webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where Tuesdays were mainly on the weekly current affairs and Thursdays were from the mains examination point of view. The dates remain the same. We still have webinars on Tuesdays and on Thursdays. The difference now being that now onwards, we have divided it subject wise. So on one specific day, we discuss one specific subject, both from the mains and from the prelims examination point of view. Today is a turn of science and technology. So what we are going to be doing is, in the past few weeks, whatever news stories have been in the news with respect to science and technology, this is what we will be discussing. Now, before we begin, as all of you know, 24th of December 2023 will mark the beginning of our prelims test series. Make sure you do not miss out on any of the tests. Now, for those who are preparing, whenever the test series starts, there are some people in the category who do not want to give the test, thinking that your preparation is right now not up to the mark. Please, it is my humble request to you. Please do not miss the test. Doesn't matter how prepared you are, doesn't matter if you have not completed your syllabus, because if you don't give the test you will not be able to evaluate yourself and evaluate your progress. So make sure that you don't miss out on the test. See what your score is, see if you are progressing or not. You can judge according to how much you are prepared, but please don't miss out on the test. There is a reason why consistency is considered as a key for success. So make sure, starting from the 24th of December, you do appear for all the tests. Make sure that you're prepared with each and every subject. On that note, let's see what are the topics that we have taken up for you today. These are the topics that we will be discussing. So, again, topics specifically from the point of view of science and technology that have been in the news in the past few weeks. First, we'll be talking about a disease called river blindness, the official name of the disease being onchocerciasis. The second topic is a summit that was held in India, GPAI, that is the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. It was held in India recently, where the countries decided how to regulate artificial intelligence going forward. Third topic is the JT60SA. Now, what is it? Why is it in the news? This is the most promising nuclear fusion reactor. The entire world is working towards nuclear fusion technology rather than fission. There has been some breakthroughs specifically in Japan. This project in Japan that has now been considered a success is called JT6TSA. We'll be discussing what that is. Then another disease that was in the news, Pompe disease. It's a disease whose patient recently died in India. So first ever patient of the Pompe disease died in India. So it was in the news, covered in Indian Express. We'll be discussing what that disease is. Then the anthrobots. Anthrobots are robots that are made from our own human cells that have the ability to cure us, to clear our infection, to manufacture whatever damaged tissue is in our body. We'll be discussing what that is. Then the Actocyte tablets, why are they in the news? They are considered to be anti cancer tablets. So they have been successfully rolled out. They will be available in the market starting from the Jan 2024. We'll be discussing what that is, what those properties are, and in the end, the last topic for today will be Project Gemini that has been launched by Google as a competitor to Chat GPT. Now, these are the topics that we have taken up for today's discussion. Again, as I said, this is a subject based webinar. Today's subject is science and technology. Now, let's start with the very first topic. So, the first topic that we have here is a disease called river blindness, official name being onchocerciasis. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have read about that. This was a disease that is in the news. Now, let's not go there. Before I go there, tell me, have you heard of something called neglected tropical diseases? Have you heard of this? Neglected tropical diseases, NTD. Have you ever heard of this? Okay, some people have, most of you have not. Most of you have not. Okay, okay. Let me tell you what this is. So basically, as the name suggests, there are some diseases that occur near the tropical areas. So those diseases that occur near the tropical areas, mostly in those countries which are extremely poor, don't have very good hygiene, these diseases are called neglected tropical diseases. So it's a bunch of a lot of diseases which have been neglected, which have been ignored. And the reason why they are neglected and ignored is that these diseases are found in some of the poorest countries in the world. Rich countries had never paid attention to that. Mostly African countries, sub Saharan African countries, those are the countries where it is found. Now, the WHO has made a goal that by 2030 we want to eliminate the neglected tropical diseases, but it doesn't seem to be going on track. This disease that we are talking about, river blindness, is one of those diseases only. It's a part of neglected tropical disease that has not been cured. Now, why are we discussing this? The reason is that very recently there was a meeting held in Senegal. The meeting was of a network called the Global Onchocerciasis Network for Elimination. In short, GONE. This meeting was held where the nations around the world participated with WHO to ensure that such kind of diseases, especially river blindness, is curtailed. Now, what happened in this meeting? What is this blindness all about? Let's try and understand. First, see, remember, whenever you are reading about any disease, please understand this. Whenever you're reading about any disease from your examination point of view, what is it that you have to remember? We don't have to remember some scientific processes behind it. What do we have to remember are a few details. For example, number one, how is a disease caused? Means, is it a bacterial disease? Is it a fungal disease? Is it some worm? Is it a parasite? What exactly is it that causes the disease? Number one. Second thing that you have to understand here is the severity, or where exactly is it? What are the places that are being affected by it? Third, what does the WHO say? Means, is there a goal? For example, is there a timeline that by this year we will eliminate this? Is there a timeline that by that year we will be able to eliminate that? Apart from that, is there a vaccine available? These are some of the things that you should be able to remember about the diseases that are in the news. So, whenever there is a disease that is in the news, you read about it in the Hindu newspaper or in the Indian Express newspaper, please make sure that you read about these things. Again, how is it caused? Where is it usually concentrated? Means, where exactly do you see most of the patients? What does WHO say about it? Is there a goal in line? Has the WHO set a timeline that by this time we will be able to eliminate this disease? And in the end, is there a vaccine that is found for that, or is there a cure that has been found for this? These are a few things that you need to understand. So, with that in mind, let's understand about this disease called river blindness. So, first, how is it that this disease is caused? So, number one, this disease is caused by parasites. Basically, it's caused by insect, mainly some flies. So what these flies do is, when these flies bite humans, the infection from these parasites, from these insect, that parasite basically goes into the skin. When it enters the skin, this is where the problem starts. The fly leaves a larvae that enters the skin. Larva basically means a kind of an egg. So it leaves the egg inside the human skin, human tissue, where it then becomes over time into a complete worm. So there are worms that are formed inside the human body. These then start affecting different organs. They give eggs inside the body, and that is how within your body the infection starts. Now, when this disease starts to spread inside the human body, the main visiting, or the main reason why it is visible, or how you can actually identify this disease, is that it has a very specific impact on the skin and on the eyes. So in the eyes, you will start to see discoloring of the eye. You will start to see that the eye color starts to change. There are worms. Also, you will see that the skin has a lot of rashes. The skin starts to discolor, and that is how the disease is identified. Now, someone here is asking, why is it that so many diseases occur in Africa? Or Megha is saying, why are there so many diseases? See, understand, whenever you talk about diseases, neglected tropical disease or otherwise, please understand, most of the diseases around the world can all be traced back to one problem, and the problem of hygiene. At the end of the day, the problem is related to hygiene. Are you keeping your surroundings hygienic or not? Are you able, for example, to use a washroom or not? Do you have proper sanitation facilities or not? Do you have a place where there is proper frequent cleaning? Is there stagnated water or not? All these very small little factors in your day to day life can decide which are the different diseases and how many diseases do you have in your area. That is why you will see, even in India, the amount of people who fall ill, let's say in slums, is much higher as compared to amount of people who will fall ill somewhere else, where you have better facilities, where you have better sanitation facility, where you have cleaner surroundings. So a lot of the factors, some diseases obviously are genetic, you can't do anything about that, but diseases are not always genetic. There are a lot of diseases that really depend upon your surroundings or neighborhood, and this is where these neglected tropical diseases actually become problematic. Now, this meeting of the GONE group, as I said, was held in Senegal. What they said was the target is that by 2030, neglected tropical diseases should be removed. Now, these neglected tropical diseases again include a lot of diseases that are mainly found in the tropical areas, which include some of the poorest nations in the entire world, including the sub Saharan African nations. This disease is not found in India. In fact, if you look at this disease, 99% of all the cases of this disease are only found in Africa. Again, 99% of all the cases of this disease in the world are just found in Africa, which again proves that the lower the earning capacity of a neighborhood, the lower the hygiene standards, sanitation standards, higher are the chances that in this area such diseases will thrive, as we have seen here as well. This again shows how is it that the disease is transmitted. Now, just like other types of diseases such as malaria, dengue, what happens is, when a person is infected, that person becomes the transmitter. How? If a fly bites that person, the fly becomes infected. Then if that fly goes and transmits the disease to someone else, that is how the disease gets transmitted from one person to the other person. By 2030, the goal by the WHO is to eliminate all these diseases. How to do that? The number one priority or the number one way in which these diseases are tackled usually is by knowledge sharing. Knowledge sharing means to ensure that if, for example, one nation has found a cure for it, if one nation has found a medicine, if one nation has found a vaccine for it, it has to be shared with others as well. For any disease, be it COVID, be it any other disease, information sharing, knowledge sharing, especially at the global level, has always been a topmost priority. In fact, if you look at how the diseases, or if you look at how COVID-19 vaccine was manufactured at such a small, short time period, the reason was that the entire world scientific community was working together. So, for finding any particular cure of any disease, the topmost priority has always been to have knowledge sharing, to have regional and global collaboration, to ensure that if there is breakthrough in one single country, the knowledge should be shared by others as well. Now, as I said, this is just one of the disease in the entire group of what you call as neglected tropical diseases. Neglected, why? Because the entire world's focus is not on these diseases. See, we are living in a world where the diseases that impact the rich, the developed nations, they make a lot of news. If there's a disease that is just concentrated in Africa, or if there's a disease that is just concentrated in Asia, the rich, powerful nations then don't pay a lot of attention to that. That is why we call these diseases neglected, meaning that there is not a lot of research going on. You will not see companies such as Pfizer or Moderna researching on these diseases. No, they don't, because they know that the patients of this disease are living in poor countries. They will not be able to afford the medicine or the vaccine anyway. That's why these are called neglected tropical diseases. Some of these are found in India as well. For example, dengue, leprosy, there is yaws, kala azar, dengue. All these are neglected tropical diseases that are usually found in the neglected areas as well. Now, if you look at this neglected tropical diseases, there are about a group of 20 such diseases that are mainly found in the tropical areas. The reason being that these are the areas which have the perfect climatic condition for a lot of these microorganisms to survive and to thrive. These are the areas where you have a huge variety of parasites, viruses, bacteria, fungus, etc., where they can survive. Because these areas don't have extreme temperatures, that is why you will see that these areas become very, very good breeding grounds for all these microorganisms. Many of these diseases are vector borne. They have animal reservoirs, means they reside inside the animals as well. That is why the entire world must collaborate and fight against these diseases, because in a globalized world where we are living, it's not good, or it's not possible that one disease will remain concentrated to one single country. If it is not coming out of Africa now, there will be time that these diseases will make way outside Africa as well. And before that happens, it's important to first tackle these. In that order, we also have something called the World Neglected Tropical Disease Day. It is observed every single day on the 30th of January. It started in 2012 by WHO. Again, the idea of WHO is to make the world realize that there is a big problem at our hands in the tropical areas. We must not neglect that. To bring the world's attention back here, this is the idea of observing this World Neglected Tropical Disease Day. Now, this disease, as I was talking about, river blindness, the official name is anchocerciasis. As I discussed, it is caused mainly by a parasitic worm which is called Anchocerca volvulus. It is transmitted by bite of a fly. Which fly specifically? The black flies. Which fly causes this? The bite of a specific fly, which are called the black flies. These, and why is the disease called river blindness? Because these flies are mainly found near fast flowing rivers and streams in these areas. That is why the word river blindness, because these flies mainly exist nearby these water bodies. Symptoms include itching of the skin, issues in the skin. We also have, as I said, about 99% of these cases have just been found in the African continent. And unfortunately, this is also one of the reasons by most of the countries in the world have not been paying attention to this. About 22 crore people have required preventive chemotherapy against this disease. It has, in fact, infected almost 1.5 crore people, and many more people, about 11 lakh people, have had a loss of vision because of this disease. Some of the countries in Africa and in South America have been able to get rid of this disease. For example, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, etc. They have been able to come out of this. There is no vaccine available for this. The treatment includes giving a specific medicine called ivermectin. Do you remember this name? Ivermectin is this drug which is used specifically to treat against this disease. Here's a practice question for all of you. Try and answer this before we go ahead and start the second topic. Read this carefully. Your time starts now. 60% people got this one right. The answer here is C. All the three given statements are correct. We just discussed these statements. We discussed about the parasitic worm that is behind this disease. Also, how is it transmitted by the bite of infected black flies? And also, third one, 99% of people at risk of this disease actually are in Africa. Let me take up a few questions from this topic that you have asked before we go ahead. Ritu is saying, is there a specific species of fly? As we discussed, Ritu, the black flies as they are called. Vivek is saying, is a new variant of COVID coming back? Vivek, it has already come back, as you would have read. So I don't know what you mean by is it coming back or not. It's already come back. When it becomes more dangerous, our government will tell us to stay at home. But yes, there is a new variant. See, understand, every disease, just like human being, does everything possible to survive. Just like human beings will do everything possible to survive, the diseases also will do everything possible to survive. It's not possible to imagine that COVID will go away from our lives. Obviously, there will be new variants. That is how viruses exist. That is how they mutate. I don't think there's something to worry about. It should not be surprising. New variants being found of any virus is not a new thing. It is bound to happen. Then there's a question from so Lakshana, is India part of the GON meeting? No, India is not a part of the GON meeting. Sabha is saying you said diseases are related to hygiene. Is Africa an unhygienic country? Sabha, Africa is not a country, which is Africa is a continent. See, the simple idea is hygiene is directly related to your income. As simple as that. So the more you earn, the better hygienic condition you will keep. The lesser you earn, the lesser hygienic condition there will be. Africa, by the virtue of being a poor continent, does not have a lot of hygienic place. As simple as that. Then Dhanashi Singh is malaria NTD. Yes, Dhanashi, malaria is a part of NTD. Then Piyush Singh is onchocerciasis just like a mosquito. Piyush, onchocerciasis is a disease. It's caused by flies, black flies. Chandrajyoti, yes, the patient may become blind. Afreen, as I said, they are called neglected diseases because the countries are not paying attention to it. Simple. Then Piyush is saying how fast flowing rivers can be breeding ground for flies. So Piyush, not the rivers, but areas nearby the rivers. So area nearby fast flowing rivers are those areas which are extremely fertile. These are the areas where these most of these black flies are found. No, just one, there are no cases found in India. Megha, 99% of the people infected by this disease are from Africa. We are not saying 99% of Africans are infected by this disease. No. 99% of all the people infected by this disease are in Africa. That's what we are saying. We are not saying that out of the entire African population, 99% is affected by this disease. No, we are not saying that. Um, then, okay, last one. Masira is saying how the disease is treated without a vaccine. Masira, there is no vaccine as such right now. It's not that every disease has to have a vaccine. Vaccine is to prevent a disease from taking place or from infecting you. But if you are still infected, there are medicines against it. For example, in this case, ivermectin is a medicine that is given to treat patients. You are just treating the symptoms. For example, what happens is when you go to a doctor and tell him that you have fever. Now, if your body has fever, there has to be a reason behind it, because body having fever means that the body is trying to fight against the infection. Having fever is a good sign that your body is trying to fight against the infection. Now, if the doctor does not know why this infection is caused, he will just give you paracetamol. Paracetamol is just to reduce your fever. That means you are treating the symptoms rather than treating the root cause of it. So in these diseases also, you don't know why is it happening, you just treat the symptom. You just give, for example, a medicine for your skin, medicine for your eye, rather than actually curing what is the root cause of all of this. Anyways, the second topic that we have here is a recent meeting held in India, GPAI, Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. Now, if you look at the trend of the news in the last year or so, artificial intelligence has been the buzzing topic all around. It has been a buzzing topic from the government, from the prime minister, also in the corporate world as well, with what happened in the Chat GPT OpenAI company. All of these are extremely relevant. Even prime minister said that he saw a deep fake video of himself. So artificial intelligence, deep fake are some things that are in the news now. What is happening is nations around the world are trying very hard to regulate the use of AI. See, there is a valid fear amongst the nations where the governments believe that if we don't control the use of AI, if we don't control the use of technology, maybe something so big will will actually take place in the future that the technology will harm the humans themselves. So to stop the technology from becoming so advanced that it starts harming the humans themselves, there is a need to regulate the use of AI. There is a need to decide where AI can be used and where AI cannot be used. For example, just a few days back in the EU Parliament, just a few days back in the Parliament of the European Union, they passed the first ever law about AI. They, in their law, they specifically wrote down in what areas AI cannot be used, in what areas AI can be used, in what areas you have to take the government's permission before using AI, so on and so forth. So EU and many other countries also have understood the need to regulate artificial intelligence. For that, this meeting was held in India where many nations participated. The idea was to for the countries to come together and have a specific regulation that is set for the use of AI. This is called the GPay meeting. Again, it's pronounced as GPay, the UPI app that used. It's pronounced as GPay, Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. It is the second such meeting. First such meeting was held in Japan. This is the second such meeting being held in India. Now, what happened in this meeting? It was hosted by India, so there were speeches, addresses given from Indian side. Our Prime Minister talked about the national AI portal, which we have. He also talked about something called Airavat initiative. We'll talk about that as well. The Prime Minister again focused on the issue of deep fake. Now, please remember, if you can take a hint of the important topics looking at the news stories, please understand deep fake is a very important topic for this year and for the coming 2 3 years, because prime minister himself has talked about deep fake multiple times now. Deep fake is, as you know, a technology which can create fake photos and videos of someone, There were fake videos of famous actresses online. There were fake photos of wrestlers who were protesting at Jantar Mantar. The Prime Minister said that he has seen a fake video of himself as well. So all these come in the category of deep fakes. The Prime Minister talked about that as well. Apart from that, India also has something called UI, which has been featured at the summit. Now, what is UI initiative? I'll just talk about that later on, but in simple terms, the government of India is trying to push AI education in our schools as well. The government is trying to ensure that even in our schools, from the school level itself, the children should be given training in AI, should be told what AI is. This is the UI initiative. YUV is Yuva and then AI initiative. The government also focused on how AI can be good for governance. The government focused on how government work can be done easier with the use of AI. Just a few days back, the Prime Minister was present in Varanasi at the Kashi Tamil Sangamam, where he was giving a speech in Hindi language, and there was an AI software used to translate the speech into Tamil. What was the name of that software? We discussed this in the CNA also. Okay. Pulkit, Megha, Niket, Sabha, Mumtaz, Pallavi, Anchal, Anu. Okay. A lot of you got this right. Perfect. Perfect. The name was Bhashini. The name was Bhashini. So this was the AI software that was used to have a real-time translation of Prime Minister's speech. So again, the government itself is embracing the new technology in its own working. So do give these examples as well. At the end of the summit, Delhi Declaration was signed. So basically, whichever is the host country, their city or whichever the host city on their name, the final declaration is usually named. So Delhi Declaration basically says that the countries have agreed that there's a need to mitigate the risk and there's a need to regulate the use of AI. Rather than giving a free hand that go do whatever you want, there is a need to regulate, to decide where AI can be used, where AI cannot be used. There is a need to build transparency, trust. Also, there is a need to ensure that it contributes to our sustainable development as well. Now, as you know, around the world, many famous people have spoken up against AI and its advancements. Very famously, Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter, the founder of Tesla, etc., he has been talking a lot against AI. In fact, he has approached the American government as well to make laws against the use of AI because he fears that if AI becomes too strong, it will harm all of us in the long run. Delhi Declaration also says that India is proposing to set up and maintain global digital public infrastructure repository. Now, what exactly is this? Let's try and understand. Global digital public infrastructure repository to share digital public goods. So basically, the idea is, let's assume one country has made a good invention in the use of AI, which is helping a lot of people, which is helping patients, which is helping students, etc. Those kind of technologies should be shared with everyone. It should be shared knowledge so that anyone can come and take advantage of this. This is called Global Digital Public Infrastructure Repository. Basically means a kind of a place where everyone contributes their knowledge, and whichever country wants to take it, they can take that. I'll give you a good example of this. UPI. Now, UPI is a prime example of this. For example, it was the government of India that made UPI, and they allowed all the fintech companies to use it. Paytm, Google Pay, Phone Pay, and all these companies that use UPI, they did not write their own code. They did not invent it. The government agency invented it, National Payment Corporation of India invented it, and they were happy to share the code, the algorithm with these private companies. That's an example of how digital goods can be shared. That's an example of how all the knowledge being shared at public platforms can be helpful for everyone. So India basically has suggested this. India has suggested that we should have a global repository like this in the field of AI in case any country develops something new, in case any new invention takes place, it should be open for all the other countries to come together and take advantage of. Now, the government of India talked about two important things, gave two important examples of what we are doing in the form of AI. One was UI. We'll be discussing that in just a bit. The other one was something called Eravat. Now, what exactly is this? It is a cloud computing platform. It's a cloud computing platform which the government of India is trying to open up to the private sector as well. The government of India wants people who are researching, who are collaborating and inventing something in the field of education, health, agriculture, etc., to make use of such a cloud computing platform called Eravat. So make sure you remember this. These small little pieces of information are important for the prelims examination. There can be a question, something like Erabat recently in the news is actually related to what? So this is a cloud computing platform that the government of India wants the other private sector also to utilize. Similarly, there is something called the UI initiative, as we discussed earlier as well. It's an initiative under which the government of India wants AI and this education to be open to school children as well. The government is pushing that from classes 6 to 8, schools should have infrastructure of AI labs. Students should be allowed to tinker, students should be allowed to experiment, to build something new, and there should be enough time given to the students rather than just forcing the students to study from a set curriculum. Give the students enough time, enough freedom to go ahead, explore something new, to go ahead and see if they are able to make something in AI. This program will be open throughout the year to give a lot of students a chance to experiment and see if they can build something new in the form of AI. This is called the UI initiative by the government of India. Here is a practice question for you. It was asked by UPSC in 2018. Let's see if you can answer this. Read this carefully. Should we start the time? %82 people got this right. Pretty easy question asked by UPSC in 2018. These are all forms of different cyber attacks. These are all forms of things that were in the news, some used by hackers to hack into different important systems. There's a question here, just a second, from Piyush. Is Eravat a supercomputer also? Can you please explain that as well? Yes. So Eravat is an AI based supercomputer as well. So this is the name, that is a name of AI based supercomputer as well. It was released recently. In fact, it was released by the government of India a few months back. I think in the month of May they released it, and it is one of the top 100 fastest supercomputers in the world. So you can remember that as well by the same name, Eravat. Okay, let's see if a lot of questions have come in. Dhanashi is saying, if PM and many powerful people are unsafe because of deep fake, then what about the common man? Rashri, I don't know what answer do you want me to give you. I don't know. Maybe if you think that you are not safe, you should stop using technology. You should stop using everything. See, the point is, with emerging technology, with technology becoming better every single day, it's not possible to control 100% this problem of deep fake and hacking attempts, etc. What you can do is You can just make people more educated, more aware. You can educate people about how to trust news and how to not trust news, to go ahead and find out if there's an authentic source of the photo or video or not. The reality is there is no 100% method to control all these forms of deepfake, etc. The government is working towards it, but it's like, see, it's like the same thing that if there is a punishment for murder, that doesn't mean that the murders don't take place in the society. Similarly, even if you say that deepfakes are banned, there will be punishment if someone makes a deepfake, but that does not mean that deepfakes automatically will stop to happen. That will not take place, and that is why it becomes a problem. Ramavat is saying, what if photos and videos are true? They try to pretend it as deep fake. Ramavat, now again, I don't know what will happen. These are hypothetical scenarios. If it does happen, then let's leave it to the experts. Let's leave it to the lawmakers to decide how to tackle with that. Then Akash is saying, why regulating AI has been so difficult for all the countries. So Akash, it's a good question. Why is it so difficult that countries are not able to regulate AI? Please understand this. Every country wants to present itself as a very inviting country, attractive country for new entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, today, if India says that we will not allow the use of AI in India, what will happen? A lot of budding entrepreneurs from India will pack their bags and go to some other country that will allow them to experiment with AI. This is a big problem. So when you say why are the countries not being able to regulate AI or regulate something else, the problem is you don't want to be seen around the world as a country that does not encourage innovation. So on one hand, you want to encourage innovation. On the other hand, you are aware of the fact that it can have negative consequences as well. It's not that easy to find a balance between the two. That's where the nations are struggling right now. Anyways, let's go ahead then. The next topic that we have is JT60SA. Now, what exactly is this? It's not a code word, it's in simple terms. It is the world's most famous nuclear fusion reactor. The world has just seen great success in Japan's JT60SA. What is it? This is the world's largest and most advanced nuclear fusion reactor. It has started its official operations in Japan. Now, those who don't understand this, those who are thinking, why is it such a big news? Please understand there is a big difference between fission and fusion. All the nuclear power plants that we have around the world, including in India, all the nuclear power plants that we have, all of them work on the basis of nuclear fission. This is the usual technology which requires uranium, which requires radioactive material. However, the entire world has been trying to go towards nuclear fusion. Now, what is the difference? Let's try and understand. The basic difference is when you talk about nuclear fission, that means a big element is broken down into two or more parts. That is fission. When a big, large atom is broken down into multiple parts, it releases a lot of energy. This is called nuclear fission. So, again, nuclear fission means breaking down of large into smaller groups. On the other hand, nuclear fusion is opposite. Nuclear fusion means when two smaller atoms combine to make one larger atom. This is called nuclear fusion. Now, there is a big difference between the two. First, the energy released in fusion is much, much, much higher. So, in terms of energy, how much energy is released? The nuclear fusion energy is much, much higher as compared to nuclear fission energy. Nuclear fusion is the process through which energy is created at the sun. So, sun, that is the ultimate source of energy for everyone on the earth. This energy actually comes in from nuclear fusion reaction only. The other very important difference between the two, why is it that the entire world wants to go towards nuclear fusion, is it does not require radioactive material. See, right now, the problem is in nuclear fission, we require radioactive material like uranium. That is why the entire world, including India, is just running after uranium. We have to find a radioactive material that is unstable, that will break down if you hit it with neutron. That is why you have nuclear fission, which has a lot of limitations. Nuclear fusion, on the other hand, will not require radioactive material. What will it require? It will require hydrogen, which is extremely, extremely easy to find. It will only require hydrogen. And hydrogen is extremely abundant, is extremely easy to find. You can get it very easily. And that is why nuclear fusion is different apart, as compared to nuclear fission. This is the big difference between the two. Ankita is asking, what about India's nuclear? Ankita, bache, every nuclear power plant in the entire world, not just India, all nuclear power plants around the world are only based on nuclear fission. All. All power plants around the world are on nuclear fission only, because the world has not been able to control and to master nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion is still an emerging technology. It is still an emerging technology. The countries around the world are trying to get their hand and understand how nuclear fusion works. And that is why what happened in Japan is so significant. Japan has been able to officially start a nuclear fusion reactor. So as I said, the difference is that in nuclear fission you break down a bigger atom. In nuclear fusion you combine two smaller atoms. Also, nuclear fusion occurs naturally where? At the sun. But nuclear fission does not occur naturally. Also, the other big difference, in nuclear fission there is an end product. The end product is the nuclear waste. That is a big headache for all the countries. No country has been able to solve this problem. What do we do with the nuclear waste after a nuclear cycle is over? But with fusion, there will be no waste product in the end. So, nuclear fusion will be safe. It will not be that expensive because we do not need uranium, we need hydrogen, we can just combine it. The problem here is that this technology will produce so much energy that it is not easy to control that energy. How do you control that energy? How do you make sure that the temperature does not go very high? That is a problem with nuclear fusion. This JT60A, which is in Japan, which is the world's first successful nuclear fusion reactor, it's a joint collaboration between European Union and Japan. It's a very large six-story machine, and there is a word that you will see getting used time and time again: tokamak. So, what is tokamak? It is actually a Russian word. Why? The first ever experiment about nuclear fusion started in Russia. So in Russia, when they first built a very small reactor for nuclear fusion, they created a very unique shape, like this kind of a shape. This shape is called tokamak shape. So this is kind of a donut type of shape. This is where Russia started experimenting. Since then, this shape is called the tokamak shape. That's how it usually works. This experiment, this nuclear fusion reactor in Japan, has seen temperatures up to 200 million degrees Celsius. Again, 200 million degrees Celsius. Please understand, this is unheard of. This is all not that easy to control, and that is why such experiments have been going on for a long time. The countries are working together to make sure that we are able to collaborate and we are able to control this technology, because if it is possible, it will be helpful for all the nations around the world. In fact, the nuclear fusion, if it is successful, it is said that it can end a lot of problems. Why? Because there will be so much energy generated out of it, which will be environmentally clean. There will be so much energy generated at a low cost that it will revolutionize the world, the way the world works. And that is why Nations around the world are working together in this. India is also collaborating with other countries as well. Now, this nuclear fusion reactor, there is one in construction in France as well. It will be ready by 2025. The one that is being constructed in France, it is a joint collaboration of a lot of countries, including India. Including India, this will be a joint collaborative effort by India, EU, US, South Korea, Japan. All of them are collaborating to come up with this project. But before that, the one in Japan has officially started its operations. As you can see around the world, there is a lot of optimism about what has happened in Japan. It is now officially the most powerful tokamak. So, different countries have been trying to experiment with this technology of nuclear fusion. Everyone wants to be the first one to have this breakthrough. So, everyone is trying at a much smaller scale. But what has happened in Japan is they have been able to successfully start this at a much, much larger scale. That's why it's such a successful example, and that's why nations around the world are trying to see if what has happened in Japan can be replicated in their countries as well going forward. Now, I discussed this earlier and I'll repeat this again. Why is there so much optimism about nuclear fusion? Why is it so important? Number one, it's a sustainable and clean energy source. Again, the reason is you don't really require uranium, you don't really have any end product that will be a nuclear waste. All that you have is, in the end, no long living radioactive waste. You just require hydrogen that is very, very easily available. Also, it is almost a limitless source of power. You will have a situation where you are not able, or you are not limited by any requirement for power. The entire world, which is working hard to focus on solar, on wind, where the world is trying to ditch the use of fossil fuels, for all of them, if this becomes successful, it will become an extremely, extremely easy way to get rid of all these problems that they're facing right now. This is a question or topic mainly relevant from the mains exam point of view, where you can have this kind of a question. The rising advancements in nuclear energy has its own advantages but posed several challenges. Discuss. Okay. Before I go ahead with the Pompe disease, let me see if there are some other questions that are coming in. Jaswant, yes, this is renewable energy. Pooja, tokamak is the name of a shape. It's a donut type shape. It was the first experiment done in Russia, where Russia was the one trying to work on nuclear fusion. So they named it tokamak. It's a Russian word. So now this donut type shape, if you have eaten donut type shape, that is used to make nuclear fusion reactor, that is called tokamak. Chinmay saying, what is half life period? So Chinmay, basically, let's assume this. So uranium is radioactive. It emits radio waves. How long will it emit? What will be the life of it? At what time does it actually have half of its radiation? That's called half life. So basically, after, let's say if you say that half life of uranium is 100 years, that means after 100 years the radioactivity of uranium will be halved. Again 100 years it will again be halved. Again 100 years it will again be halved. So Lakshana is saying India is a part of France. How can India be a part of France, bache? France is In France, we also have a nuclear fusion experiment going on where many countries are participating in that. One of those countries is India. That's what I said. Then Gunjan is saying, can we replace petrol with uranium? Gunjan, you can try in your bike or car. Let me know how that works. Then Himanshu think fusion reactor will be far more dangerous than fission. Himanshu, see, when you say fusion will be far more dangerous than fission, there are different ways to look at it. When you say danger part, the dangerous part about fusion, FUSION, is that the temperature it will have will be much, much, much higher. The temperatures in nuclear fusion, which will be generated, will be much higher than nuclear fission. So that's the dangerous part. But in terms of the material being used, in terms of the radioactive waste, that is not present in nuclear fusion. So in that aspect, it's much cleaner, much safer. Then Kamlesh is saying there is a high risk potential when it comes to nuclear fusion. How is that getting dealt with? Kamlesh, that's what the countries are doing right now. There is high risk in almost any technology that we have, because that risk has still not been uh, curtailed. That's why we have not seen these fusion reactors installed in many countries. So that's why scientific community is still working to see if they can control those risks. If they are satisfied, only then we'll see those getting installed. Again, I will repeat, in the entire world, including in India, the nuclear power plants that we have are nuclear fission, FISSION, not nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion is still an emerging technology where the world is trying to still control it. And Japan has said they have officially established the first nuclear fusion power plant. Okay. Rishika is saying how high temperature is dangerous in fusion. Rishika, it's dangerous because, let's say, in Japan, what is happening in the nuclear fusion reaction in Japan, the temperature will go up to 200 million Celsius. So 20 crore Celsius. That will be the temperature. Now, the problem is it's easy to just write 20 crore Celsius. But how do you make materials that are able to sustain this temperature? How do you make the boundary wall that is able to sustain this temperature? That's the challenging part. Are you able to understand? How do you make those materials, those components that are able to sustain all these temperatures? That's the dangerous part. That's the challenging part. And if something wrong happens, that is what will be a danger. Anyways, uh, Vivek is saying if man gets access to fusion energy, will it lead to destruction also? Vivek, destruction can be caused by a knife and a bullet as well. So I won't say destruction will only be caused by nuclear fusion. So any technology in the hand of the wrong people can cause destruction. A knife and a stick is also good enough for that. So I won't say that just because we'll have fusion, there will be destruction. Let's not be that pessimistic, man. Don't worry. Focus on your upcoming prelims exam. Before that, if someone gets their hands on fusion and the world ends, then fine. No one will be all India rank one next time. Don't worry about that. But I don't think that your way of thinking should be that it will lead to dissection. If it does, it can. Anyways, let's go ahead. One more disease. Very pessimistic lecture today. One more disease after river blindness. That is the Pompe disease. Why are we discussing about this? Not to scare you off, but India's first Pompe disease patient has just passed away. This is why this is in the news. Now, it's a very, very, very rare disease. How rare disease? Basically, 1 in 3 lakh people have it. It's a genetic disorder. It's a genetic disorder. There's nothing that you can do about it. Now, recently, the reason why it is in the news, first ever patient of this disease in India, just 24 years old, passed away. And that is why this disease has come in the news. Why is this disease so dangerous? How is it caused? What is the problem behind this? Let's try and understand. So, this disease, official name is glycogen storage disease type 2. So basically what happens is glycogen is built up in the lysosome of your body cells. So our body cells have a lot of organelles. Among those organelles, one of the most important ones is lysosome. Lysosome is extremely important. Why? Because it has a lot of enzymes which can break down proteins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, lipids, etc. In these lysosomes, if we have a lot of accumulation of glycogen, that is when it becomes a problem. It is caused because of absence of an enzyme called acid alpha glucosidase or GAA. So let's see what happens. In simple terms, our body cells have something called glycogen. This glycogen ideally should be broken down into glucose. Who breaks it down? Glycogen to be broken down into glucose, the responsibility is of an enzyme called GAA. When this enzyme is not present in your body, or when the enzyme is not enough in your body, the glycogen does not get converted to glucose, and this is where the problem starts. This is where your lysosomes will have accumulation of all of this glycogen, and this will lead to the disease. This is called the Pompe disease. So again, the Pompe affected cell looks something like this. The problem lies within the glycosome. Why? Because of absence of this enzyme called GAA. The role of this enzyme, as I said, is to convert this into glucose. If it's not converted to glucose, if it is all just jumbled up inside the lysosome, this is where the problem starts. Remember, it has got nothing to do with hygiene, it has got nothing to do with what you are. It is a genetic disorder, and it is because of the absence of this enzyme. Again, do remember the name of this enzyme, in short, GAA. In other words, acid alpha glucosidase. Right now, there is no cure of this disease that has been found out. That is why it becomes even more problematic. There are symptoms, that is cardiac complications, muscle weakness, etc. Now, the problem in these kind of diseases is two. First big problem, let's say you go to a doctor, okay, and you tell the doctor that, sir, I have difficulty in breathing, okay. Now, do you think that doctor will think, oh, you have the Pompe disease? No. The doctor will say, oh, take this inhaler, take some steam, take a Vicks vapor up, right? If you go to maybe a better doctor, you may have a chest X-ray, etc. But at what stage would a doctor think, oh, the problem is in your lysosome? By the time the doctor would come to that diagnosis, it will be game over. That's when it becomes problematic. When the diseases are extremely rare, when the doctors are not used to seeing a certain disease, the doctors will not go to that level to think, oh, you might have that as well. That's when it becomes problematic, number one. The second issue with that, these kind of diseases, is think of it from the point of view of pharmaceutical companies. For a pharmaceutical company, it should be attractive for them to make a disease, to make a medicine. Why? When they think that a disease is far and widespread, only then they will make a medicine, because then the people will buy it. If there are so few people with a certain disease, and even if they buy, even if they make a medicine for that, they know it will not really be sold in large numbers. That's why even from the pharmaceutical point of view, you do not see a lot of invention or a lot of research here. That is where COVID was extremely important. Why was it that every pharmaceutical company in the world was working to find out a COVID vaccine? Because they knew that everyone in the world would buy one. Doesn't matter where you live, you will buy one. But with these rare diseases, the problem becomes that you do not know where the patient is, you do not know where it will be bought, you do not know if the patient will be able to afford this. And again, the problem is, would you even be able to diagnose that particular disease? Symptoms again are degenerative impact on the bones, your motor skills, or your walking ability, your running ability will be degraded, your muscles will not be at the best possible capacity. There are genetic testing that can be done to identify that mutation. But again, imagine if someone is sick in your family, at what time would you say, sir, let's do this genetic testing of yours? Do you think the person will go ahead with this? If someone is ill in your family, the mothers will first say, please drink some milk, have turmeric milk, it will clear everything. Someone will say, do some yoga. At what stage would someone say, let's do a genetic testing? That stage will not come before a lot of years pass, and that is why it becomes problematic. So this is where the problem now starts. So you can detect it, it's not that you can't, but at what stage do you go up to lysosomes, at what stage do you go to genetic testing? These are things that you can do after the person passes away, but when the person is alive, you are not really thinking from that point of view. There is no cure for this disease right now. So what happens is, right now, You are just trying to help the patients with their symptoms. If they say their muscle is paining, you give them paracetamol. If they say their legs are paining, you again give them paracetamol. If you say that are not able to walk, you give them two paracetamols, two dolos. That's the only thing that is done usually. And that's why the problem basically starts. Yes, paracetamol 500, not working. Paracetamol 650, still not working. Paracetamol 1000, everyone dolo. Anyways, I've there's a difficult question for you. Let's see if you can answer this question. Read it carefully. Read it carefully. See if you can answer this. Let me know once you have read this. I'll start your timer. Done. All right. 49% people got this right. This is actually D. All of these are correct. All of these are correct. So the government of India has something called National Policy of Rare Diseases. So the government of India has a policy under which they help people who are suffering from rare diseases. In this policy, the government has categorized the rare disease into three categories: group 1, group 2, and group 3. Group 1 is this: disorders which can be cured with one time treatment. So let's say if someone is suffering from a disease, if there is a one time surgery, one time injection given, one time medicine that is given, the person will be cured. That's group 1. Group 2, that requires lifelong treatment but low cost. And third is, it has again lifelong treatment but very, very high cost, and lifelong therapy is required. So this is all a part of national policy of rare diseases that the government of India made in 2021. uh, Quickly, a few questions that have come in before we go ahead. Ritu is saying, are there any safety measures taken in case of any leak or machine failure? Ritu, yes, obviously there are. Don't worry, they are not sitting in a room, in a drawing room, making temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. Yes, they do take safety measures, so you are safe. Don't worry. They're not doing it over a gas stove. Okay, then I understand your question, I understand your concern, but do trust the scientists. They are taking some measures. Okay. Uh, Shipra is saying, can we provide external GAA enzyme? Shilpa, not right now. Till now, it has not been developed. That's why we are saying there's no cure of this disease so far. Adarsh is saying these nuclear power plants are privately owned or government. Adarsh, in India, they are not privately owned. Around the world, in certain countries, private countries do participate. For example, if you look at Japan, a lot of big Japanese companies that you think are just producing cars like Mitsubishi, Hyundai, etc., they make a lot of parts of the nuclear power plants. In India, no. In India, it's only government run and government operated. Then Kamlesh is saying, since it's a genetic disorder, why can't we try gene therapy to insert that gene that creates a GAA enzyme? So, Kamlesh, what happens is the things that we read in the books and what is happening in real life is very, very, very different. So, just because we have read in the book there's something called the gene therapy, that doesn't mean that the gene therapy now is being done at every hospital everywhere around the world. No. So, these kind of technologies if there is one or two successful operation, it comes in the news, but that doesn't mean that it has become so relevant and it has become so easy. There are a lot of complications involved here as well. So gene therapy is, yes, it's a reality, but it's still mostly an experimental thing. It's not done on a very frequent basis. There are a lot of experts that are required, a lot of technology is still required to make this a reality. uh, Ocean is saying there aren't any genetic diseases that has medication, right, providing full recovery. Ocean, there are a lot of them. I don't think full recovery is something that can be defined right now, because, for example, let's say someone has cancer, you cure them of cancer, then it can relapse again as well. So, not fine or not 100% true to say that some disease can cure 100% cure the genetic disorders. Then the last question, Syam. I have heard somewhere fusion of elements requires very high temperature. It is available only on the sun. How do we produce such temperature to fuse the two elements? So, Syam, again, it's a temperature that is readily and naturally available on the sun. Obviously, here on the ground, there are scientists that are trying to artificially create that temperature. There are various ways to do that. In fact, one of the ways in which the scientists are trying to do that is first make a nuclear fission reaction. With that nuclear fission reaction, the temperature that they have, try and use that, increase that further to use it in nuclear fusion. So that is one of the things that is happening here. Anyways, Chandrajyoti saying, are genetic diseases curable? Yes, they are curable. As who said? As Kamlesh said, by gene therapy. So yes, see, on paper there are options available, but again, to say that I read this in the book, so I will do this in the operational theater, these are very different things. So yes, on paper there are options available of gene editing, gene therapy, but again, they're not being implemented at such a large scale. Last one, Amala Krishna is saying, is there any research on GAA addition to glycogen? No, there's no research happening as such right now. The next topic that we have is anthrobots. Anthrobots are very small, tiny robots made from our own human cells that will be able to heal our own damaged tissue. Very fascinating, very interesting. So, basically, if you have a damaged tissue inside your body, rather than any external treatment being given to you, your own cells will create small robots that will be able to heal your own tissues. That these are called anthrobots. Now, these anthrobots basically will be made or created inside your own human body. Something like this was done earlier as well. For example, earlier we invented something called xenobots. Please understand the difference. Earlier, scientists discovered something called xenobots, but they were made using frog cells. They were made using frog cells and they were used to repair human tissues. Now, from the human cells itself, from the human tracheal cells, where is trachea exactly? Where is it in the human body? Anyone from biology? Anyone who remembers school biology? Trachea is where? What do you call this in simple language? I'm just seeing if someone is telling me in simple language. Yeah, finally. Muskan, Priyanka, Anushka. In simple language, you Piyush call this a windpipe. In simple language, basically call this the windpipe. So basically, your voice box, it's connected to the lungs with a pipe. That pipe is called windpipe or trachea. Basically, that is what part of the body is that is responsible for our breathing. From this part of the body, these cells are used to create something called anthrobots, and these anthrobots will be able to repair our own damaged tissue. Again, earlier the experiment that was done was able to make something called xenobots. The difference was they were made by frog cells, and now anthrobots are made from our own human cells. They can assemble themselves and they can repair the damaged tissue. They are obviously, as you can imagine, very thin. How thin? somewhere between the width of human hair and the tip of a sharpened pencil. Some anthropods may have single cell, and some of them may have multiple cells as well, and they will be able to try and detect where the damaged tissue in the body is and try and repair that as well. Please remember, the location from where these anthropods are being formed is from the tracheal cells, that is the cells that we have within our own windpipe. As per the experiment that was done, these robots were able to survive for 45 to 60 days before degrading themselves. So they will be formed in the human body, they will do the job, they will repair whatever the damaged tissue is, and they will then be gone. They will dissociate and degrade themselves within 45 to 60 days. There are a lot of potential applications of how it can help the human body in the long run. First one, obviously, to recover from certain injuries, to manage certain diseases as well. If you have an internal wound that requires certain healing, for certain disease to be treated, all of that will be done in the future with the help of these anthropods. That is the expectation. Again, as I said earlier, also, when these new discoveries are made, they are first made and written on paper only. So to expect that from tomorrow your windpipe will start creating cells and your diseases will be gone from tomorrow, please imagine, understand that will not happen. So a lot of these are just experiments that are being done. The successful experiment means that it will now go to the next stage. It will still mean that there are certain number of years before this kind of a therapy comes into the practice, but at least for now we do see that there is some good sign of how our internal body can heal if there are internal damages. For example, I'll give you an example. So let's say, if you get, not you, if someone gets hit, let's say by a bullet, or if there's an injury, so what happens is, if a bullet comes into your body, it ruptures a lot of your tissues, it basically damages a lot of your organs. So the problem is, you can actually put damages outside on the external part of your body, but how do you put damage within? If there is a damage within your organs, you obviously can't put bandage on that. So how do you treat that wound? How do you heal that? This is where these kind of robots, etc., will come into the picture. These will have about width of 30 to 500 micrometers. As I said, they will survive 45 to 60 days, about couple of months. They will be able to make sure that they identify the damaged tissue, and they will also be able to clear any debris in the inhaled air, whatever air that you inhale, which goes to the windpipe. They will clarify, or they will clear that air also going ahead. Vivek is saying, can anthropods replace the role of doctors? Not really. They will not replace the role of the doctors, because, again, for anthropods to be generated, there has to be a stimulus given from outside. Obviously, they will not generate themselves. There has to be a stimulus given from outside in the form of maybe certain medicine, in the form of certain injection, so that they can now start to do their work. So I don't think they are replacing doctors anytime soon. If there's someone who is trying to become a doctor, who is a friend of yours, don't discourage them to be a doctor. Don't tell them all the anthropods. Okay, let me see some questions. um, Justin is saying, can the anthropods use to regeneration? Justin, as of now, anthropods are being used or will be used only for repairing a damaged tissue. So there is no talk of regeneration right now. Uh, Himanshu is saying, are we seeing a grave concern to deep fake? What about dark web? Himanshu, dark web has always existed for a long time. So let's not put a connection between deep fake and dark web. Deep fake exists in normal internet itself. There are fake photos, fake videos going around of influential people. So I would not form a connection between the two. Yes, deepfakes are dangerous. Imagine someone who is followed by millions of people. If his or her deepfake video goes online in which he or she is saying attack someone, that becomes a big law and order problem. So yes, deepfake, false news has always been an issue. Let's not connect that to deep to the dark web. Our normal internet also a lot of deep fake issues. Then Akash is saying, would it be right to say anthropods work like white blood cells? Akash, no, not really. White blood cells form a part of our immunity, but no, they don't damage, repair our tissue specifically. Kamlesh saying, is it a research proposal or has it turned into a clinical trial stage? Kamlesh, this is clinical trial that has been found to be successful. That's the state. Clinical trial has already found to be successful. That's why we are discussing. Shreyas is saying, can it cure autoimmune disease? Shreyas, there is no word on that so far. If the scientists do announce this, we'll get to know, but not right now. Bhavna is saying wound healing means, Bhavna, wound means, how do I explain wound? Any there's a what's the synonym for wound, man? If there is, let's say you have hurt your hand, it's bleeding. Don't don't give me Hindi synonyms. I also know Hindi synonyms. I'm thinking of an English synonym. Yeah. Injury that leads to blood, injury that's a cut sign basically. So if, let's say, internally any of your organ has an injury, a wound, blood is flowing out, that's called a wound. So it will heal that internally. No, it's not an ulcer. Don't call it an ulcer. Ritika is saying, will it be curing heart blockage? No. Quit your cigarette and it will cure your heart blockage. Okay, Ritika? Anthropods will not cure your heart blockage. See, just because I understand this, just because a discovery has been made doesn't really mean that now it will be the end of all the problems in life. Tomorrow you will say, sir, anthropoids, will it solve a relationship problem also? Will it give me money also? No. A discovery has been made for one specific purpose. It will do that, as simple as that. Full stop. No. Chetri saying, how are these inserted into our body? No, they will not be inserted into your body. You might be given a medicine or an injection with which your body will be stimulated and your trachea windpipe will automatically make these anthropods for you, which will do the job. That's the idea. Yes, Shreya, it will heal heartbreak by repairing your heart tissues that have broken up. So, yes, go ahead with that. Let us know how it works. Okay. Then, uh, Labdi saying, isn't it any external stimulus given to generate anthropods will have negative impact? Can it be cancerous if gone wrong? Even scientists have not gone to that stage, man. Will it cause cancer or not? Let the scientists go ahead with that. We can only tell you what the scientists have discovered. So I can't tell you what the anthropods will cause later on. Okay, when it does, if it causes cancer in someone, we will be back in one more webinar to discuss that as well. Don't worry. Okay, let's go ahead then. The next thing that we have, again, from one disease we are coming to the other one. Now it's, let's talk about the cure of certain disease. Actoside tablets. Now, what are actoside tablets? Actoside. Kennedy is saying we are just learners. Kennedy, and I am just a transmitter, the messenger of what the scientists have done. So you are a learner, scientists are the discoverers, I am just the messengers. As you know, don't shoot the messenger, right? So let me just explain to you what the scientists have done. Okay. And yes, a lot of livers also in the class, like Vechri. Yes, you live, you live. Okay. Then the Actoside tablet, what is it? Basically, there is a new tablet that has been discovered, which is considered as a part of cancer care. It has been released, or it will be released in the market very, very soon. It has been given approval by FSSAI as well. It has been made by Department of Atomic Energy. So basically, what exactly is this? Let me tell you. This is not a tablet that will cure your cancer. Before you start asking me this, let me tell you, this is not a tablet that is going to cure your cancer. Okay, so don't ask me those questions. What will it do? So basically, if someone has cancer, a part of cancer care is chemotherapy, which means that your body will be subjected to a lot of radiations. So when your body is subjected to radiation and chemotherapy, that has a lot of negative impact in your body. You will see a lot of cancer patients become extremely weak. One of the reasons why they become weak is they're undergoing that chemotherapy that impacts their organs, that impacts their body. So this tablet will help them to fight against those radiations. It will reduce the harmful impact of those radiations. Okay. This tablet is not to cure your cancer. What will it do? It will make sure that the chemotherapy that you go through for your cancer treatment, that chemotherapy's harmful impacts are reduced, those harmful impacts are curtailed. That is what this particular medicine will do. So it has even shown some improvement in those suffering from pelvic cancer, because what they had was, because a lot of chemotherapy, there was blood in their urine. That condition was resolved because of the use of this tablet. It has been, as I said, used as a treatment to minimize the side effects of radiotherapy. Again, this will not cure cancer. This will reduce the side effects of chemotherapy, radiotherapy. It's being discovered, or rather developed, by Department of Atomic Energy and IDRS Labs Private Limited, Bangalore. It has been given the approval by FSSAI, means it will enter the market very soon by Jan 2024. So just by next month you will see this entering the market. It's in the category of nutraceutical. So there's a category of medicine that is called nutraceutical. So basically it means nutrition plus pharmaceutical. So any medicine that gives you nutrition, any medicine that has a positive impact on your body to reduce the side effects, that comes in the category of nutraceutical. The final approval, as we discussed, is given by FSSAI, the same body that banned our beloved Maggie. We'll never forget that. FSSAI is a statutory authority that gives approval for all these eatables that you see in the market. Without their approval, packet products cannot be sold. This body works under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The term nutraceutical is a term that's not just used in India, it's used around the world now. Again, it's a combination of nutrient and pharmaceutical. That these two coming together, any drug, anything that you intake has having positive nutrition in the form of a medicine, that comes under the category of nutraceutical going forward. They usually use a lot of natural sources. Most of them, they have a physiological benefit for the patients as well. They help you with dietary supplement, they help you with medicinal food as well. They usually have probiotics. So for example, even the green tea that you have can be termed as nutraceutical. That is, it will help you in good gut health, it will help you in ensuring that you don't fall sick. So anything that you have from the point of view of having much better nutrition in your body, that comes in the category of nutraceutical mainly. Let's see if we can answer this question. FSSAI based question. Read this. Akash, I think, are these tablets affordable? Akash, they have not rolled out the tablet, so I don't know the cost of it. But because it's made by a government agency partially, so it should not be very expensive. Your time starts now. Ocean, I can understand your feelings. Same here. 52% people got this right. Impressive. 52% people Googled this right. Good job. All three are correct. All three are correct. First, second, and third. First and second, we discussed, not that difficult. The third one would have been tricky. Those who Googled, good. Those who could not, you have to increase your speed. Anyways, just kidding. Those who knew it, great. So FSSAI is a body that consists of a chairman and 22 members, out of which one third have to be women. Are you did not Google? Take it lightly, man. Don't worry. I'm not telling you cheated. Take it as a joke. Okay? Learn to take one. Don't worry. You did not Google. Okay? You are the best kid, the perfect kid. Your parents are lucky to have you. You never Google. Great? Perfect. So, anyways, before we go ahead with the last one, that is Project Gemini, let's see if you have some questions apart from Googling. See, I know your parents will never say this. So, I'm saying this. Don't worry. Okay? Just like you cheated, I'm also cheating by saying this to you. Anyways, okay. Pravalika has an interesting question. Why approval from FSSAI? Why not approval from Drug Controller General as it's a medicine? So it comes under the category of nutraceutical. That's why FSSAI has to come in. For example, you have a lot of, like, these days supplement like vitamin C tablets, vitamin D tablet, vitamin E, etc. A lot of that has to be approved by FSSAI as well, because what they are doing is they are not specifically treating one disease. So what this was also doing was it was treating a side effect of a certain process rather than actually saying that we are treating cancer. That is why. Yes, as Ankita saying, these are over-the-counter drugs, so basically you can get it very easily, and you don't require the drug administration to come in. Anyway, let's go to the last topic then, Project Gemini. So again, those who are fond of googling here, many of you are, would also be fond of using Chat GPT, right? So those who are fond of using Chat GPT, as you know, this is the AI search engine that you can use. It's run by a company called OpenAI. Ever since it has come into the picture, it has become extremely famous. People are using it for their homework. People are using this to write their answers. People are using this to cheat. Of course, not you. You are the best people. Others are using it. Some hypothetical people are using it to do all that. So what happened was that it became very famous. Microsoft also gave billions of dollars to this. So other companies also wanted to initiate their own AI search, and now Google has come up with their own version. This is called Project Gemini. So this Project Gemini is a Google initiative, which is a competitor to ChatGPT in simple terms. Free for now. I don't know for how much, but free for now at least. You can go ahead and you can see this. So you can experiment this. You can just try and see Google Gemini, ask a few questions, ask about whether anthropods can cure autoimmune diseases, whether it can cure your cancer, etc. See what it tells you and tell me also. So basically, this is what Google has come up with. And I know, as many of you are saying, when Google released it, the launch event was not as expected. The launch event, the demo that they gave, what turned out to be a recorded demo, turned out to be fake. But now they have launched it again. They are saying that now it is free, it is open for use for everyone, and they are calling it the most capable AI model ever. So obviously, just like for your parents, you are the best kid ever. For Google, their project is the most capable ever. Those who are asking the difference between Gemini and Chat GPT, Chat GPT is a different product made by a company called OpenAI. Gemini is a different product made by a company called Google. It's like asking difference between Netflix and Amazon Prime. It's the same stuff, just that it has different components. So again, it's the same thing. It's Google made artificial intelligence project. It's a, again, kind of a portal. I hope many of you would have used Chat GPT. If you have not used Chat GPT, please go online and use it. It's not paid for everyone. Those who are saying that it is paid, no, Chat GPT has a paid version, but you can use a free version as well. So it's not, it's paid for everyone here also. Sonu is saying, what about Bard? Don't use Bard AI. That's not that great. I've used it. Go ahead and use the Chat GPT and Gemini. See if it is able to actually give you good results. It will be able to enhance Google's power. Google already has a chatbot that is called Bard. It will be able to make sure that it can give you even better results. Now, the point here with all these companies going towards AI, it is good as far as the users are concerned on one hand, but the reality is these kind of projects have also led to a lot of people losing their jobs. I'll give you an example. So, if you look at one job that has been impacted the most by it is the job of content writers. So, for example, whenever you visit any website, you go to any website, you will see that it has some content, right? Some paragraph is written, some line is written, some articles are written. Now these are people who have made a career in writing all of this, they charge for that. But now with all these things coming in, such as AI, such as these AI platform, Chat GPT or Gemini, it has impacted a lot of these writers who used to write all of that. So you can say in one way it is making the world a better place for the users. It's making it easier for the users. For example, earlier if you had to write an email, not a lot of people knew how to write a proper email. A lot of people used to do spelling mistakes also in writing emails. But now all that job has been done much easier with the use of all of these. Google has a AI division called DeepMind. This is a division that developed Gemini. It will be able to solve problems of maths, physics, etc. Again, around the world, it is being used by the students to solve their assignments, write essays, etc. Thankfully, the UPSC exam pattern does not allow you to do that, but it has been able to revolutionize the way education is done. It has higher version like the Chat GPT. If you go to the paid version, it has the capability to make PowerPoint presentations for you as well. It has the ability to make a business plan for you as well. All of these things are being done with the use of platforms such as Gemini. Now, for us from examination point of view, it's more relevant to understand what are the countries doing to regulate it. Regulate it means regulate AI. Every country in the world, including India, is concerned about the capabilities of these AI platforms. We discussed about the GPAI in the beginning, how that summit was held in India. Apart from that, countries around the world, including India, have made laws to regulate this or are trying to make laws. In India, for example, Niti Aayog published a document called National Strategy for AI and Responsible for AI for All report. Means the Niti Aayog basically published a report talking about how AI, its usage, its application has to be done in a responsible manner so that it is not used to bring in any social disrepute in the country. There are Western countries that have also trying to regulate this. UK, for example, has talked about how the companies should keep five principles in mind while using AI. Their five principles are safety, security and robustness, transparency and explainability, fairness, accountability, and governance. According to UK, these five things should be kept in mind while any country uses AI. I've told this earlier as well in the beginning. EU has also recently passed a law in their parliament where they have talked about what is it that AI can be used for and which companies cannot use AI. For example, EU says that any AI application that tries to hinder human intelligence, that tries to change human emotions, that will not be allowed. In US also, they have introduced an AI Bill of Rights talking about what AI can do and what AI cannot do. They have also talked about AI should not be allowed to interfere in areas such as health, labor, education, etc. China also made a law last year about regulating AI. They're also concerned about AI going out of hand. So nations around the world are now trying to get ahead of where we are right now. In terms of AI, there are different forms. The era where we are living right now is not an era of intelligent machines. We are still living in an era where machines have to be programmed. Then the machines can do the stuff that they're expected to. But the end goal of AI is to reach a point where the machines are self learning themselves, the machines becoming smarter and smarter by the day. That becomes a dangerous proposition, because when you're not able to control the learning of the machines, then how would you able to control their minds? That is why nations around the world are trying to ensure that there is a, at least at the end of the day, there is some limit on where AI can be used. There are a few examples of where AI is being used in India. In the field of healthcare, for example, ICMR issued the ethical guideline for application of AI in bio research, where they talked about where AI can be and cannot be used in our health sector. In the field of education, IIT Kharagpur is working with Amazon to develop a national AI resource platform. In judiciary, the Supreme Court has used something called SUVAS, Supreme Court Vidik Anuvad software, that will translate the judgment of the Supreme Court in different regional languages. As you know, the Supreme Court's judgment and the proceedings only happen in English. A lot of people are kept out of the purview of that. They are not able to read and understand the judgments. So they're also using these AI platforms. So again, nations around the world, including India, even the judiciary, are trying to get their hands on AI, but whether they are able to use it for everyone's benefit or it gets out of control, that remains to be seen. On that note, this is a kind of question that you can expect. This again is a topic mainly from the mains exam point of view rather than from the prelims examination point of view. And this brings us to the end of today's webinar. A few minutes earlier, I'll take up a few questions very quickly. Those who don't have any questions are free to leave in that case. Yes, I'll just show the leaderboard quickly. Okay, so that's the leaderboard right in front of you. A lot of people answered 4 questions correctly. So good job. You can see your score here as well. Thank you, Imanshu. Okay, let me take a few questions and then we can end this. Just a second. Okay, Sham has a question. Will these type of application not lead to compromise the thinking ability of students? For example, nowadays students rely on devices like calculators, even for very small mathematics. See, Sham, the point is you cannot force anyone not to use a certain technology that exists. For example, if the calculator exists, you can't just stop the hands of someone. You can't have government interference even at the most basic level. At the end of the day, it the government is there to form broad guidelines. You can't force that technology will not be introduced because you fear that people will be dependent on that. It's a legit fear to have, but it doesn't mean that the government should not allow technology to come in. Chinmay, I'll take that as a compliment. So Rakshana is saying, can you guide me regarding how to prepare for science and tech for 2024 prelims? So Rakshana, most of the questions in science and tech are from current affairs only. A lot of them, I won't say all. So keep an eye on the current affairs part. From the static part, the questions mainly are these days involved, or basically they revolve around biotechnology. They revolve around topics such as defense, space. If you follow monthly current affair magazine, any good monthly current affair magazine, that's a good way to go, because what they do is, rather than just giving the news that is in the news, they also give a background story of it. So that's a good way to prepare for that, I would say. Then thank you, Imanshu. Then let's see. Krishna saying river blindness, please repeat. Krishna, you have the PPT, you can go ahead. The very first topic is river blindness. It's a disease that's caused by a parasite, by a bite of a black fly that releases larvae into your body. It then turns into worms, or these worms, what they do is they lead to your eyes getting blind, discoloration of the skin. So river blindness is that disease. Perfect then. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you learned a lot of new things today. We'll meet soon in one more webinar. Don't miss any test starting from the 24th of December. Do give all these tests. Have a good day ahead. Bye bye. Jai Hind.